I'm standing by the commemoration plaque of John McCrae, who wrote the most famous poem of the First World War, In Flanders Fields. The poem is much recited because it's deemed to be a patriotic poem that's asking us to remember the dead, the poppies in the field, but also to carry on their fight. And it, in modern times, has a kind of controversial aspect to it because do we really want to carry on the fight in the way that he urges? The ghosts of the dead soldiers in the poem urge the living to carry on their fight and pass the torch on of war. That's one interpretation. You could interpret it another way, carrying on the spirit of the soldiers, which is to help mankind, possibly. So McCrae is buried here in Weimar, which is a long way away from In Flanders Fields in Ypres, where he actually wrote the poem about. He was a Canadian, and he served in the Canadian Commonwealth Army.
John McCrae was born in Guelph, Ontario. He developed an interest in poetry at a young age and wrote throughout his life. His earliest works were published in the mid-1890s in Canadian magazines and newspapers. McCrae's poetry often focused on death and the peace that followed. At the age of 41, McCrae enrolled with the Canadian Expeditionary Force following the outbreak of the First World War. He had the option of joining the medical corps due to his training and age, but volunteered instead to join a fighting unit as a gunner and medical officer. It was his second tour of duty in the Canadian military. He previously fought with a volunteer force in the Second Boer War. He considered himself a soldier first. His father was a military leader in Guelph, and McCrae grew up believing in the duty of fighting for his country and empire. McCrae fought in the Second Battle of Ypres in the Flanders region of Belgium, where the German army launched one of the first chemical attacks in the history of the war. They attacked the Canadian position with chlorine gas on April 22nd, 1915, but were unable to break through the Canadian line, which held for over 2 weeks. In a letter written to his mother, McCrae described the battle as a nightmare. For 17 days and 17 nights, none of us have had our clothes off, nor our boots even, except occasionally. In all that time while I was awake, gunfire and rifle fire never ceased for 60 seconds. And behind it all was the constant background of the sights of the dead, the wounded, the maimed, and a terrible anxiety lest the line should give way. Alexis Helmer, a close friend, was killed during the battle on May 2nd. McCrae performed the burial service himself, at which time he noted how poppies quickly grew around the graves of those who died at Ypres. The next day, he composed the poem while sitting in the back of an ambulance.
In Flanders Fields. In Flanders Fields the poppies blow between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the larks, still bravely singing, fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch, be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Fields.
In Flanders Fields. In Flanders Fields the poppies blow between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place. And in the sky the larks still bravely singing, flies scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved. And now we lie in Flanders Fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Fields.